Hello and welcome to another episode of Developmental right here on the TMPT and HMG Patreon. I am your co-host JP John Paz from the two-man power trip of wrestling, and of course, joining me is the pipeline destroyer, the hacker himself, Ben Hamin. Ben, how you doing?
YOLO, that's right. The leader of the insurgency has returned, infidels, for a 20-year celebration all summer long as we head into the event that started it all in September. You know what I'm talking about, infidels. Hacker Hamin's back, and it's a two-man power trip. We can take off, but we don't have to land this plane. Hacker Hamin, JP, back at it. YOLO.
Going a little developmental today. No guests, but the guests actually will really turning out to be you because we want to turn the focus to developmental to OVW and the time that you were at OVW.
John, are you sick of hearing me talk? I'm tired of hearing me. I fucking can't stand myself anymore.
Really?
No, I'm just like, I just worry about burning out the audience by hearing me too much. I know we want to have guests on here, but I appreciate that you want to make it about my time, man. So I'm happy to answer any questions as honestly as I can.
So with developmental, I'm always just curious, like when you actually show up, like your first day in OVW, how do you get in? Like who, like is it Danny Davis, Al Snow, Cornette, Hamin? Like who's the person that's like, hey, I want Ben Hamin and he's going to be here Friday and he's starting at 12. Like how does that go? I'm just curious because it's not like a normal regular 9 to 5 job where you're dealing with, human relations and they're like, here's your job and you're showing up and here's your supervisor. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. A lot of people have different routes, I guess, as there isn't one surefire way. But most people would have heard of it through the sheets or what have you, and who they were making, stars at that time and where the best were. And that WWE was, focused there. So myself personally, when I had come back from One Night Stand in WrestleMania and Raw, Chicago, I was like, I'm going, I'm going to go check it out. And I went down for a Wednesday night show, TV taping. And I was like, yeah, dude, this is me. This is what I feel like I got to do. And I was just there as the fan or what have you. But I had written or called, and I can't remember what I had done, written an email or called, and somebody passes it along to Rip. Rip called me back and said, yeah, you dumb bastard, come down if you want, come check it out. And I did. And then I stayed with Jamin. He passed me off on a Jamin so Jamin can make some money. So I was like, there's $40 for letting me stay, man. And all that. So was Rip's practice, I think, the next day. So I went and watched, and I was just like, wow. So it's really about you having to reach out. They're not recruiting anybody, although we did have, by the time I was done, a little bit more like fill out this form on the website and you know what I mean? And we'll get a hold of you and send any tape or whatever it was. So, I guess it's the best. I'm a big subscriber to the best will always find each other, no matter what. And, if you're dedicated to a craft, you're going to put yourself, you're going to put your 10,000 hours in, but you're going to put yourself around people who are masters of it. You know that you don't know enough and you have to humble yourself and start from building a foundation. So I already had a really strong comedy and improv foundation after 6 years, well, really 10 years performing improv. But this was going to be, what I thought I was smart to, all new. So, but there's other people if Nick Dinsmore was like Von Lawless told us on Rip's podcast, like, he was watching it in Indiana and saw Dinsmore on a show live. And then Dinsmore was in his community college computer class and he saw him checking out the dirt sheets. And, that's how they became friends. And he brought him in and Von Lawless been around the business since he was a little kid and known Rip. But that, everybody has their own little pathway, I guess. I don't think Danny would be anybody back in the day to be really reaching out and saying, hey, come on down, unless it was because it was really in that early phase of it. It was really, Rip and Danny's thing and Cornette's thing. So they weren't worried as much about being a WWE developmental property as they were actually having a company, So, but everybody who knows anything about that class of 2004 in that time, they knew where you had to go, to really get looked at and be on WWE's radar while learning WWE's style.
So do you have to show them tape? Do you have to say, "Hey, I've done this before. I've never trained to be a wrestler." Like when you actually first started, did you? I mean, or was it just like, "Hey, I'm going to pay you a certain amount, and you're going to start training." Like that. That's basically you don't like OVW is not above it, where they're like, "Oh no, we're only accepting certain
Right.
talent here. We got to see videotape."
I'm a different case than some, I guess, because people wanted to come to be a wrestler are going to train from the ground up, and it's also about every wrestling school. You are showing that, you're not being worked, you're paying for your education, but that's where companies make money as on their wrestling schools. Anybody who wants to stay afloat anyway and have a feeder system. So I just started paying Rip right away, and I could have paid more and gone to beginner's class too, and I probably should have, but I was training way above my head and athletic ability, in Rip's intermediate class. So I started an intermediate class, not even knowing, why the lockup and, no high spot drills, tackle, drop down, leapfrog, fucking hip toss, all that shit. And Rip will take it easy on you because he knows, and we'll chain wrestle for 45 minutes, and then we'll do drills for another hour and 15, or vice versa, and then chain maybe for 15 minutes more at the end when Power's all sweaty and Rip thinks it's funny to have Revolver sweating all over you. But that's how you're going to learn, working with people who are better than you. So Adam Revolver is a great technician, and he would get saddled with the most rotten in the intermediate class, but a wrestler like Shiloh Jones from the Outrunners, or Shiloh Mount, whatever you want to call him, he would start with Dinsmore and then pay him, then come up to the next level. But in my like Ryback was in my class, and a couple other guys that were really up there, and they were also training with Al too. So at one time there's like 27, 28 guys. Sometimes over 30, and then it kind of lost down to about 12. But that's not a bad thing because you're getting more time to focus on specific things. 20 to 30, you're not getting blown up because everybody's got to get in there. But it's also way more nerve-wracking when you sucked as bad as I did, and there's guys in there, Matt Seidel or whatever, who can do it all. But that's how I got better, was getting to chain wrestle with Rick Victor, getting to chain wrestle with Lady Sojo. I love chain wrestling with Josie. She's awesome wrestler, man. And I learned a lot on how to work real, but work softer, because with a guy, I might be a little more snug, and not to say Josie can't take it, because she'll give it right back. But when you're dealing with a female and it's still got to look real and you're wrestling her like a guy, you're gonna be a little bit lighter, and then I would take that and carry that over into the rest of my work. So the men and women working together in the same style, why she's so great, why Serena's so goddamn good, is because of that, because of working like a wrestler, not a man or a woman. There's female spots, when I see guys do them, I laugh, like cartwheel, back handspring, back elbow. When I see a guy do that, I laugh my ass off, because that's a total girl spot.
Right.
But what have you? You're not gonna see me even attempt that shit. It'd be funny. The back handspring, I'd smash my head right into the ground. So if you wanted a great education instead of thinking you're over, I really should have gone back. And I regret that I didn't go study directly under Dinsmore, didn't study directly under Joey Mercury or Matt Capitelli, take lessons from them. I worked with them all on the road, you know what I mean? But because I had to sink or swim in the deep end with Rip. But Rip wanted to train me knowing what I wanted to do, which was be a creative. So I ended up taking over the promo class section of Rip's class and starting to teach the fundamentals of improv. Now, at the same time, Al's class is at the top. So it'd be like Dinsmore, Rip, Al, or when Dinsmore was back on the road, Capitelli, Rip, Al. And, Al would have to do tape review with the guys who were contract and all that the day after the show. And sometimes those were brutal. Like a 1 hour show could turn into a 4 hour tape review with them.
Wow.
If somebody just was going into biz for themselves and not doing whatever, I would make them pay the price and break things down and watch old matches. It's invaluable information. But mainly I trained with Rip, but man, the wrestling education, like a guy like Shiloh had, and you know, when we talked to Adam Revolver, look at how he came through booking wise education, Danny, Rip, Al Snow, Cornette, Hamin, bro, and he's at the top of the food chain, you know, like his name should be echoed with those, because that's all that information combined into one. And that's what you can get out of it there if you really want to do it. But if you just like, oh, I'm in the intermediate class and do it as a status symbol, which I'm guilty of, then you short yourself. You know, a lot of people worry more about that instead of seeing the big picture, I guess, because they just wanted to get up to Al's class to show that they were good enough. Anarchia, you know, he's another great wrestler who was on Impact there in LAX. You know, I call him Lowrider. But like there's a lot of just like dudes who are phenomenal workers. And then you got me and Twinkle Toes, BBC, but we're bigger than everybody else. That's the thing. We're like the biggest dudes. So, you know, even my guys, the Insurgency, who are just both all three athletically gifted and whatnot. I was just able to be the mouthpiece. So easy enough there. And I'm standing there at ringside learning everything that works and what doesn't work, you know, and I'm trying to help write things and get things over in other people's business and punch it up and show them character wise how to combine what they're learning with Rip and Al to a next level, because a lot of us were so green that you had to hide it with character. You wouldn't want a 12, 15-minute match because shit could go bad. You know what I mean? There's some guys like Ted McNailer and Jamin and Power that could carry somebody for an hour. That's not a problem. But there's other guys on the show that, well, need to go over strong or be protected. I mean, all that. They want us to know all that. Just because you know it doesn't mean you'll use it all. I know a lot of babyface shit. You'll never see me use it, you know? Right. So that's hopefully didn't skirt your answer too much there. But I remember how nerve-wracking it was my first year of like, there's 27 guys here, bro. Idol Stevens is there. And like, you know, and you don't want to hurt nobody, especially because Rips was more for non-contract guys and Al's was all contract guys. So if you got invited to Al's, which I only got to sit in a couple times, but like a Anarchia or a Serena or a ODB was with Al, you know what I mean? They were up there with all the contract people, no matter what, like, and the rest of us were kind of trying to get as good as we could learn. I mean, Rip trained all them too. And that went up to Al's class at one time, but, we're trying to get that good to get noticed, to get to that next level. Cause we thought it was like, it's just the way you look to be in the advanced class as opposed to intermediate. But really what you're learning from Rip is just as advanced. He just has to dumb it down for non-contract guys who are showing up, who may have had a ton of business or, you know, been in the industry for a minute, or guys like me coming from comedy who are willing to jump in the ditch and dig and take the bumps to earn the respect, to learn the craft, so I can then go apply what else I know and plug that into it. Because if I kind of showed up, you know, I was anxious. I wanted to hand out improv things to people. I would photocopy things that I thought in certain performers, Katie Lee or what have you. I was like, hey, give this a read if you wouldn't mind. I think it could really help you. And they'd come back to me. Aaron Stevens would ask me to write stuff for him. The Major Brothers, you know, whatever you want to call them, Hawkins and Ryder. I saw that. I got to kind of tune that edge, what their debut as the Fake Edges, before anybody else even knew about it. It was me and them in my apartment. So it's about building the respect of, I'm going to go set up the ring. I'm going to get there early. I'm not even working the show. I'm going to take the ring down. I'm going to go to 4th Street with the boys, hang out. Then I'm going to go stay small and not overstep my bounds and act like I'm the big guy here. And all that little equity that you build up, and they just wanted to get over and get on TV too. So they're probably at home going, oh, we got this guy here. Why don't we try and use him and trust him? And other people would be like, and I know they were like, fuck that guy. He doesn't belong here. Okay. If that's how you feel, then that's why I'm saying like things of status as opposed to seeing a bigger picture. Some guys just have a wider vision of what it is. And I'm guilty of not having that sometimes, letting our egos get in the way of, I'm in the advanced class. Well, maybe this guy over here has got something that could unlock something huge for me, you know? So that was a part that I'm grateful for. But man, that first year of really training, getting bit by the ropes, like just coming out of comedy and not being an athlete, like trying not to be the Chris Farley fat comedy guy, but now you're in the fucking ring, like, you know, Rip calling it like cradle, fucking backslide, whatever, you know, the victory roll, crucifix, and you're blown up, your tongue's hanging out. You're like, what the fuck am I doing, bro? I was doing fake tag outs on stage last month and selling out houses, and now I'm like down here killing myself. But dude, it's a sickness. You love every minute of it. It's crazy though, because then you go to shows, you see guys 24, 25-year-old getting out of cars from training 2-3 days a week, 3 days of shows, and everyone's walking like a 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
But that's what we do for this business, man.
When you initially started, did you tell Rip like, hey, I want to do more like the promos and I want to do more like the creative stuff? But he still said, hey, you got to train the ring.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he didn't say that, but it was like, he's not going to waste his time. Either he's going to take your money and you're either going to know what you got to do to get respect, or you're just going to be out the side. And that's the other thing. People could go to OVW and be in the beginners class. There's a lot of local guys right from Kentucky who are just, you know, guys who are never going to make it in this biz to like the top level, but they could live out their wrestling dreams and be in the locker room with top guys. And maybe Ryback needs 4 guys to kill that night, and one of those guys gets to be that guy. And maybe he'll even get a SmackDown shot out of it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. But there's a lot of guys that just come and go to live their wrestling dream a little bit and want to be around the boys, and then they'll learn some great stuff. Hopefully they take it back to the indies and shindies where they work. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that only do a year and are kind of gone forever from the business. And that's the peak of where they were. But hey, they were at Developmental, probably got on camera, got on TV during the time of WWE Developmental. That's a lot more dedication and sacrifice than a lot of human beings will ever know what to do, you know what I mean, or know how to do. So I tip my hat to everybody I've ever been in the ring to take bumps with there, because that's such a different environment and place than any other thing I've ever seen in wrestling. Monster Factory is similar, but they don't have the TV that they do, and I don't think they have like the dorm lifestyle where we all lived in these apartment complexes together. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just different. When you go to Louisville, you move there. Not a lot of people really commute from, once in a while, Ohio or Tennessee or Indiana guys, but most people were people who packed up everything and moved into a shitty apartment complex, and we all just lived together. That was the biggest part of it, really, man, to be honest with you.
So when you first meet Rip, though, what do you think? Is it's so funny. I still have from a few years ago when I interviewed him, I had called him, left a message, and I guess somehow I missed the call. He left like a 10-second hilarious message, like, what the fuck? You call me, I call you, you don't answer, call me back. Like, you know, a very, very sarcastic kind of guy.
Oh, dude, that's Rip 100%. Dude, that's every moment with Rip. Yeah, you're fucking over. Thank you. Oh, you don't need to answer my call? Oh, I forgot you're a superstar. Sniff, and then hang up the phone. You know, so, but nobody gets over on Rip. That's the thing. So you had asked me, what did I do? Yeah, I told Rip right out of the gate, and I believe my exact words were, I want to be the next Vince Russo of wrestling. And I think his response was, what the fuck do you want to do that fucking shit for? That's all phony bullshit. So, but that's what I knew, because not like I was like Russo Mark and WCW. I probably shit on Russo when I was a Mark too about the WCW controversy. I can't even remember now. It's so long ago, but like I knew he had shook up the business, and I knew I had improv, and I knew that if I was to plug that into wrestling, how it is, it would change the game. And nobody really had done anything like that. So that was what kind of my whole of, even when I was in college, I knew that eventually I wanted to take this skill set that I was mastering to WWE. So I was very upfront with Rip about it. So we weren't wasting each other's time, but Rip told me I would need to train because that's the only way I'm going to get respect.
Did he like you at first? Did he think like, oh, this guy wants to be a writer? Oh, he's mentioning Russo. Like, he probably didn't like you, right?
No, I was a huge fucking smart mark, bro. And coming in to think I knew anything about wrestling when I really didn't know shit, at the end of the day. So he probably deals with that a lot. He's a great coach. It's Mickey from Rocky. Are you going to tell Mickey from Rocky anything? You're going to argue with him? No, you're going to be punching a fucking side of beef and chasing chickens. So it's that exact same, but at the same time, he's like a father to all of us. And he's very hard on us and doesn't put up with your bullshit. And people bring him whatever it is, a chicken sandwich, an energy drink as homage, you know what I mean, every day just to make sure Rip's taken care of. And it just is that, and Rip cut his own throat with WWE because of who he is, because he don't give a fuck, and he'll tell a diva that she ain't shit, and then they'll turn around and stooge the office or what have you. So did he like me? Probably not, but that's how you earn respect from a coach. Rip don't have to like anybody. His whole persona is being a miserable bastard.
Yeah.
So, like, well, what are you going to try and change that? No, you have to adapt to it, like it, or leave it. And if you don't like it, there's a fucking door. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for the money, and we'll see you. Get the fuck out of my ring. Get the fuck out of my business. That's what he'd say. So you need to never miss a chance. Joey Murphy saying never miss a chance to shut the fuck up, and you stay small, and you just sit there and learn. And when Rip turns and asks you a question, or Al, you'll give them the wrong answer, and then they'll call you a dumb bastard or whatever it is, and then they'll tell you the right way, and you better take that knowledge and drive it into your brain and etch it in there forever, so because how many other people are getting that opportunity where they're trusting you with the knowledge of everybody from that they learn from as well. It's not like they're just making it up. They're finally passing along, and they want to, but you have to show that you're hungry for it and say why, and then go and apply it. A lot of people that's the thing that really pisses them off. And that would piss Al off too in training. Al would test them by by them, I mean, developmental sign guys, by training something in practice over and over to get it down for them and write their business for them to get them over. And then if they couldn't get the creative over, then in the match, if they went into biz for themselves and didn't do what they were practicing in practice and apply it, that's when you'd get one of those 4-hour sessions of, yeah, dude. Yeah. So you better be, because you wouldn't in practice be like, this is what I want you to do on the show. Everything's a test. You know what I mean? So, well, I've seen guys fail them, and I've seen guys pass it and girls pass with flying colors. So, and really get it. But yeah, when it comes to, does Rip like you, it's kind of better if he doesn't like you, to be honest with you, because then you have an opportunity to show him that you're coachable. That's what he's looking for more than anything. And will you just listen, shut up, and do what he says? And then can we work on the footwork and tune things up and just do it rep after rep after rep after rep till it becomes second nature? That's what he's doing. He's really breaking you down and rebuilding you from scratch. So are you going to kick and fight that to get your shit in and do all these up and overs that don't mean nothing and da, 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 da? Or are you going to make it look like a fight? And that's when you see Rip go, yeah, or whatever. As soon as somebody does something, some days he has terrible days. And as soon as somebody does something rotten, ding, 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 get the fuck out of the ring. And like that was your time. Like, he's not even going to play. He just lets you know from how terrible he's letting you know that, no, you don't do that in my ring. You don't start with getting your shit in. And I've seen guys do it, and they might be waiting fucking 40 minutes for ring time, and then it's their time, and then because they're on the side, I'm going to do this, that, and this, that, and this, that. As soon as he sees that, you're done. And then you'll learn. You'll sit there and watch somebody else do something and be like, okay, that's what he wants. Everything's a test, man. Everything. Because up there, you're going to get tested nonstop, silently. So you have to even be able to identify. A lot of guys get tested and don't even know they're being tested.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I say the mob side of this, and why the fans I never knew it was like this, and what it feels like, even if you know about it from listening to this with Developmental, until you feel the squeeze on you and the heat is on you and the eyes are on you to see which way you're going to move. Like I can't really tell you that feeling, you know what I mean? To experience it is something else completely different. And then you got to go and show and prove at practice in the ring, like, oh, this guy sucks, but he's getting a little better. And then by week 6 of practice, I remember this, and it was a really great feeling. 2 times, because me and Twink, big guys, and we both can throw a kick. So we would do the double big boot on the high spot drill for tag teams, and people would pop for it or whatever. And then we did pin drills, and Rip calls 5 pins, and you give them. And I was finally in the zone, backslide, whatever it is, small package, jackknife, and then he called my East Straw cradle. I hooked it, went through, boom, and it goes 1, 2, kick out, and then that person stays in, and you go out, and the next person gets in. I go 1, 2, and kick out, and and everyone goes, "No, Sheik, you should have pinned him. That was fucking awesome." And I was just like, "Oh, okay, man." But I wasn't thinking that about getting my shit in. I feel like I crossed the threshold of Rip breaking me down just to start being the wrestling machine. You know what I mean? Even though I'm not that, but when I had I didn't even know I had them, but they were into it, when the class was into it. And that's not the drill, but they wanted me to go into biz for myself because it was so good. So that was one point in probably about 6-8 months into my training, I guess, maybe, that where it was like, okay, we're starting to get someplace now.
Who is actually like in charge? I know we're talking like Rip running drills, Al Snow's doing the contract guys. Like Danny Davis is technically the owner, but who's really in charge? Or is it like Cornette in charge at one point? Hamin, like when you're there, is Danny Davis like the end all be all? Is he the boss?
Oh yeah, Danny's yes. Danny's in his office and the door is closed. If the door is just slightly open, hey Danny, you got a minute? What? And you better have your shit ready to go, and to know what, there ain't no small talk and come in and do this, that, or the other. And that's like the power of that office is like a vortex of terror of like, you're either going to get called in and good things are going to happen, or you're going to get called in and that could be all she wrote for you. You know what I mean? Or Danny's got something that he wants to bring you in on as a marketing person and to execute, and it's business side. But you don't want to be going there for disciplinary stuff, absolutely, because he will fucking and the guy's only 5'7" and like looks like your grandpa, but super intimidating, bro. Like so scary to like have to deal with it. But then, and he doesn't even watch. He claims he doesn't watch his own show even. He's just doing business in there all the time, burning DVDs. He's got all the shit going at the same time. And where can we get this done? And yada, yada, yada. And all the reports for WWE on each guy and all that kind of paperwork stuff was definitely Danny and Al and Nova when I was there, Bucci, and it switched in with Ace and Bruce and all that stuff too. But yeah, man, Danny's running the day-to-day operations, making sure the bills are paid, getting things done with Six Flags, getting towns booked, making sure TV shows are getting there at the right time. And I only know this because it was tragically Danny's loss of his father that sent him not into just like anybody will after losing their dad, darker days. But he also had other stuff to deal with. So a lot of that fell on Revolver, myself, and Ted McNailer. and getting the shows out, getting the barter deals done, making sure things were on time. So we were thrown into the executive end and had to work as a team, much like probably Cornette, Rip, and Danny did to keep that part of the workflow process going. So, and along with working with Marty Richardson, who was a great editor of OVW for many years, and the camera guys there, like Cornbread is one of those guys that you might hear me name drop or things like that on a show, but he's kind of like a legendary local redneck guy who's been the lead camera operator at OVW. I don't know if he is now. Jason Frost is another guy, great dude. And they would be in little sketches and things like that. Or Cornbread would dip in and out of wrestling and be on the amateur shows and the undercard shows and shit like that Chris Cage talked about us with. That was a big thing is before there was OVW, but there was no Derby City Wrestling. Rip invented that for his intermediate class, and that's what he kind of came up with for me and Revolver and Ted McNailer to direct and be able to produce. So like me coming there, they actually, I believe in my own ego, built that around for us to do that, to learn that shit. Rip directed and booked the first 22 episodes, and then he just gave it to us. But how he would go is, all right, who's got my money? And then everyone would pay their dues. Oh, you owe money? You're off the card. And and Rip would go, who's here? All right, you're gonna wrestle you're up with this, you're up with that, you're up. It's not like there was Al would be writing TV week to month, you know what I mean? It was like, who paid dues, who sold tickets.
Yep.
You got to sell 5 tickets to get on the show, and if you sell 20, well, that means there's 20 people coming to see you. You busted your ass and you're trying to pack the house. And where are those people going to want to cheer the most? Put him in the main event in the top match. So you had incentive to look like a top guy as well if you could hustle, you know what I mean? So that's the half work of the wrestling school, using their students as ticket sellers to get on amateur shows. But if you want to perform and not just be a bump guy for fucking Idol Stevens or just work security, on the shows, and you want ring time in front of an audience, this is what you're going to do. And Rip would go, everyone can go out there and go meet some fat women at a bar and fucking sell them 5 tickets. If you're young and handsome and oiled up, go find some old women, go find some whatever you got to do to fucking sell the tickets. Go open a gay car wash if you got to and get out there and sell tickets. And guys would do whatever it took, man. Luckily, I was working at an acting school, so I could always hustle to a wide variety of people, kids, family, whatever was going on. They used my little celebrity of doing TV there as a selling point. So I never had a problem selling 5 tickets. And once you got your regulars, you can just do it. So the amateur shows would be every month, and that was a big, big opportunity until Derby City Wrestling started for the non-contract guys to get ring time.
Good idea. That's a great idea. With that, and kind of mentioning WWE, obviously that would be more for the contract guys. How much of an influence, like how many times does Johnny Ace, Bruce Pritchard, Mike Nova, like how many times do those guys show up?
Well, Nova lives in Louisville, so he would be there more when he was, the contact for talent relations. But then when he got clipped, it was a little different when it was Ace and Bruce kind of splitting it. They would come down every 3 months. I remember Bruce showed up with Lagana, and that's where I met Bruce the first time. And it was a good meeting, and Lagana, it was whatever. He gave me his cards and all that. And I thought, okay, here it is. And that's what really led to me getting my 2-day interview in Stanford, was that meeting. The put over. And that's when Danny called me in the office of like, I want to introduce you to this guy. He's been writing for us for 2 years. He's got a good head on his shoulders. And, there's an opportunity. Just want to make the introduction. Like that was, to get that in OVW, that introduction was just massive, massive, massive. Because Ace would test guys and be like, what should we even hire you? What's special about you? Like, then you got to be like, well, I'm special because, and then you're like, oh, so you're putting yourself over? Like, there's the test, you know what I mean? Like fuck. And I seen guys fail that test and come out with like, because then they want to see if you're going to boo-boo face another test. You know, how are you going to deal with it? It's just, it's a crazy mind fuck. But yeah, when it was those two guys, it was much more sporadic, where Nova might be at like once every 2 weeks. He might be at a TV, he might be at Six Flags, but he's one of the boys, you know what I mean? And when it was Dreamer, I don't know if Dreamer was living there or not, or if Dreamer would come in like monthly to do evaluations and was just working with Al. But I know Al had to do paperwork and everybody. And I know it's even more hardcore now at NXT on the house shows. When I went and visited with Serena, you know, they were doing an awesome show in Buffalo. It was a really great little venue. And I got to talk to Ciampa and them, but Deeb and Scotty Too Hottie were running the show, and they still had to be up to like, I got to get these reports in by 1 a.m. on the house show in Buffalo bar show. You know, I was just like, oof. I mean, who's looking at those really? Who's looking at that and going, Bronson Reed beat the fucking MMA guy, Ruiz, convincingly, and nobody got hurt. Oh, okay. Send that to Stanford. Oh, what's the Stooge report there? Like, who's reading those stupid ass reports?
Right.
You know, like, it's such just busy work, waste of time bullshit, instead of really training somebody to understand what's going on. What would be far better is to have a post-show meeting or next morning meeting where you go with those coaches over all the notes from the house show like Al did. Those performers are never seeing those notes. They're going to Stanford, and then I bet they're just on an email that nobody even fucking forwards to anybody or anything, you know? Only when somebody gets hurt for probably insurance purposes.
Is that just one of those things like, hey, we're going to keep this guy busy? We're going to keep Scotty Too Hottie busy until 1 a.m. Make sure he's working.
Well, could be that too, bro. It very well could be that. Everything's a test. Oh, we had to let him go because he didn't get his reports in at 1 a.m. by 1. You know, we have a standard here, and that's just what we do. Nobody's reading that shit. You know, otherwise the product would be different. But yeah, that's an interesting thing on that side. And dude, you would see Nova wound tight as a fucking watch, man, based on that pressure. You know, he was always cool to me. A lot of guys didn't care for some of the stuff, and I don't, you know, that's their stories. But yeah, dude, when he had to rein it down, he could fucking test guys and wind guys up too, real fucking tight, man, real tight, to the point they'd be having almost anxiety attacks in the locker room over phony wrestling, bro. So like that, I don't want to make it not sound great, but really during contract times, they were training you to be able to deal with Bruce, Triple H, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, all that cutthroat shit that fans think they know about because they read about it. They're training you to get ready to live it, you know? And it's a very mafia, stab your best friend in the back if they F up kind of way, in a pecking order way. Otherwise you're gone too. And even because you know somebody, there's heat by association and all this kind of shit that no civilian has to deal with in their regular life. Or if you think the politics at your corporate job are bad, you got no idea what the wrestling biz is about, man. But hopefully you do after developmental today.
Now, I think probably a good stopping point, because we can go on forever, but we'll save some for the upcoming weeks, and we'll go delve even a little further. Your time there gets a little bit more backstage stories, maybe a little Rick stories, little drinking stories.
Ooh, the drinking story. Yeah. There's hazing. You know, we did some hazing incidents. And I could be killed even for bringing this up now, to be honest with you. The Fearless Jack Bull Malibu Invitational drinking competition that there's been 2, and I was at both. One, they're both on tape. I have one, but dude, there's stars there from ECW, WWE, Impact, and OVW all at the same time, and now AEW. It was the best of times and the worst of times. I can tell the story about Robert Gibson getting fired after I bought him weed too. Like there's all kinds of little things and that was one of the scariest incidents where I didn't get called into Danny's office. I should have brought this up with Jamin on. They called Jamin into Danny's office to test Jamin to stooge on me, to fucking say that it was me that did it or what have you, when they already knew. And Robert Gibson thought I called the office and stooged him off to get him fired because of it. But it was a very well-known good brother is what I'm told. So I'll leave it there. But man, I'm sitting in my apartment shaving Ali's back as we're getting ready to go to the house show. And Robert Gibson calls me and he's like, bro, buddy, what the fuck's going on? He's like, you stooge me off. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? No, never would I, like, he's like, I just got fucking fired. I better fucking not find out it was you. I was like, Gibby, I swear to God, I would never put myself in that position or you, but somebody had overheard him asking me to get him smiz. And, and that's all it took. Somebody had it out for him. Didn't want him there, and fucking stooged it off, bro. And of course, his mind's going to think it's, in the paranoia that it's me, stooging it. It definitely wasn't. So here's me and Ali non-contract going, what the fuck are we in for, dude? We're ready to go to the show. We don't know if we're walking into a bear trap. What's going on? So, but the news hadn't traveled that fast yet. So we made it through there and got the fuck out and tried to stay small. But 2 days later at TV, they called Jamin in to get the stooge, and he went to bat for me and didn't throw me under the bus. And fucking, I never got called into the office, but all that went down with my name in the mix. You know what I mean? I'm just like, and that's what they're looking for. I still don't know exactly who it was or how it went down or why. I just know that as a young boy, my head was about to get fucking guillotined off. And for what?
Scary.
Yeah, dude. And now weed in every fucking state pretty much. So, but at that same time, and I could talk about when Ace came down after Chris Benoit, where Chris Benoit was there at Six Flags Summer Sizzler Series and fucking had a phenomenal match versus Mike Cruel, I believe. And 6 weeks later, killed his whole family and himself. And then it was shortly after that Ace came down and, we're not hiring anybody who's on that shit. If you look like it, you're not getting signed. None of that shit. And you know what I'm talking about. Next tryout, they hired Ryback and fucking Abraham Washington, but that's a funny thing too. Man, we can go on forever here. Sorry. But Rip had me work with Abraham Washington, who originally tagged with JTG and did kind of the Crime Time gimmick.
Yep.
And this is 2008, right before Obama's going to be on. You know what I mean? I go, bro, this kid looks great. Leading man, Denzel, good looks. Doesn't talk like a gangster, like all that shit. You know what I mean? But it can do the gangster, thing if he needs to. I go, bro, you need to fucking be just like Obama. And he didn't even really know much about Obama. I'm like, how does the black guy here not know as much about Obama? I mean, I'm a political junkie at that time too. But so I was like, man, this is what needs to happen. And then he comes back for the tryout, like fucking, he didn't want to listen to me at all. He went right into business for himself. He goes, he takes his shirt off, shredded, just shredded, bro.
Yeah, it still is actually.
He goes, I don't give a shit about what they got to say around here. He goes, what's WWE wellness policy got him? Nothing but a bunch of big bellies. Look at this. He goes, I'm the HNIC, except he didn't say HNIC. He said, I'm the head. And like everybody in class is like, this guy's just dropping N-bombs in the motherfucking promo, bro. And it was a passionate promo, but it was more gangster shit. And Crime Time's on the road already. You know what I mean? So everyone's looking at each other like, this guy's a fucking idiot. And I'm just going, I gave this guy pearls, man, to fucking get over as Obama for like 3 or 4 rip classes that he came to because he knew the tryout was coming. So he just showed up for that.
Yep.
So here's Ryback, the biggest fucking guy in the history of the business, muscle mass wise, possibly since Warlord. And then this dude who's fucking gassed out of his mind after Ace just told us they're not taking anybody like that. Those are the only two guys they signed. And then what do they do with fucking this guy as soon as they put him on the road? Name him after two presidents and fucking, whatever they did with him and Tony Atlas was stupid as shit with the talk show host Ed McMahon stuff. But
and they covered up his arms too, which was weird because his arms are
huge, bro, huge. Yeah. And
especially for his body type, his arms look even bigger than you would think. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude. And those are just two like flashback examples. Like there's the Heat with Robert Gibson doing nothing except doing what a legend wants you to do, and it can come raining down on you, your boys, everybody. And then here's a dude that they say they would never hire, and then you give him gold, and they use my shit on WWE TV, and we're not hiring you though. Like that's the cruel twist of all this weird shit in wrestling, man, where we say one thing and do the exact opposite. And if you tried to hold us to any standard on that, we're going to tear you down for making us look like hypocrites. It's a weird Stockholm syndrome. When we say the wrestling bubble, that's what it's like to live inside of it, dude. That's every single day something like that happens to not just you, but to somebody else in the locker room that you're hearing about it. You know what I mean? Every day.
How many layers there are to this. Holy crap. It's crazy.
Yeah, see, you're inside the mafia now. I can be fucking killed for this. But yeah, man, anything else you want before we take you home? I got plenty of stories we can always.
I think we should save them though, because I don't want to go too crazy. Because man, that one whole episode could be that Robert Gibson story to me. I can pick it out apart. Yeah. Oh man.
Fuck, man, that was I'd almost like to talk to who I think it was the stooge of The Office, because it was the only one in earshot when he asked me, and I wonder why. Like, why would you want to bury Robert Gibson? You know what I mean? I don't understand.
One of the all-time greats.
Yeah, dude, and it was definitely one of the boys there, and definitely was just like fucking willing to give any information. Not one of the easiest coaches to work with, and always fun to be around, man. And I was just like, ugh. Now I look back at it with not that I was happy he lost his job, because you've been one of 1,000 things that caused that. And that, like I said, that's just, didn't get your report in by 1 a.m. Some bullshit thing that they just want to clip him for. But yeah, dude, that's a funny old part of my history that rears its ugly head every now and then. But like Jamin told his story, like, listen to these stories I'm telling you, then go back and listen to the Jamin Olivencia's 17-minute opening episode where they were ready to they kicked him out twice over a golf club.
Yep.
Okay. So this is what we're dealing with, man. It's a very, very strange thing that fans will never know about. And I don't want you guys to have to live it. It's an interesting foundation of who I am and what I am. And I've been in entertainment for 30 years, and there's nothing like that pressure, bro. And I can see it and feel it right now in NXT with Gargano and Cole's promos on Killer Cross. The same things go. And I don't doubt that it's Shawn Michaels lighting up those matches and starting those fires, bro. It feels the same way to me.
Hey, I got you. Now, let's go to the plugs. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. And, of course, Patreon, patreon.com/tmptempire. Ben, what do you got?
Yeah, I just got a message from Vince, so I'm probably late for that meeting. But I'm going to cameo.com/Ben Hamin, patreon.com/Hamin Media Group. Appreciate those cameos. I got another one to do tonight, pal. Yeah, Ben's cameo. It's going to be great. Yeah, you can go to Russo TWC on Patreon and get Master Shoot Theater. I got to get out of here and get over there to learn DAP so we can build out the Realm Network, and then a 3:00 meeting at Russo Brand, 4:00 Hamin Media Group meeting. It never ends here with 2Man Power Trip HMG. I'm going to go develop mental myself with all this shit going on, man. But Paz, always good to hang with you, brother.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you right back here next week for Developmental. See you next week, folks.